Hi, Faery again, of Lucid Liberations, which is my hypnotherapy practice, and also I am a dance performer, and I am an artist in different ways. I create these things, and sometimes I paint stuff, and sometimes I pretend to make music. Anyways, so today I'm here to talk about gender, and how I use gender in my practice, and how I approach gender in my practice. So I am gender fluid, and the interesting thing about how I approach my practice, because it is very gender focused for me, because that's the lens that I view the world with, I am what would generally be considered beyond the binary, but in my practice I in fact still use the binary. I know, it sounds kind of crazy and it sounds kind of weird. But there's an actually very intriguing reason as to why, which I'm going to get into. And so, why the heck would someone who is gender fluid and practicing working with people with gender still be using a system that they don't even fit into? Ha ha! So, the binary. Men on one side and females on the other, or masculine or feminine, or however you want to call that. So, they're categories. They're categories of things. They're categories of people. They're categories of beliefs. They're categories of attitudes. They're categories of actions sometimes, ideas. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind, they're not located in those different areas. I just did the thing. Not located in different areas. Okay. The conscious and the subconscious mind both kind of interpret the world in different ways. The conscious mind is your linear mind. It's 1 + 1 = 2. It's if I wake up in the morning in a couple hours, it's going to be a couple hours later. It's going to be a couple hours after that. Da 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 da. It's got a sense of time. It's linear. Cause equals effect. Science. Not in that things that aren't scientific aren't conscious. Science in the whole logical putting two together, figuring things out. A sometimes reductionist kind of a method of getting to the smaller and smaller pieces. That's how the conscious mind views the world. The conscious mind actually shifts and changes and grows. So as we have new ideas that we take in, or new information, and as we learn things, the conscious mind is what's developing. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is more illogical in comparison. So it's that creative mind. It's the part of us that thinks in pictures and feelings and associations and emotions look really illogical to the mind that thinks in numbers. So it's not that it's illogical, it's that it's a different kind of approaching things and a different kind of viewing the world. And so the subconscious mind, because it thinks in thoughts and feelings and pictures and associations, creates associations and categories of things to kind of sort its information out. And one of the kind of first ways we get trained in this, as we grow up, is in relation to gender, in relation to our physical body and how we interpret what it is capable or incapable of, or what societal-wise and culturally it's supposed to be doing. So because of that, it generally takes a lot of processing for people to shift that stuff. Which is why you'll have people who go through a transition and the transition can seem really rocky internally, mentally for them, because they're grappling with everything they've kind of been raised with of how they're supposed to act based off of what their body looks like, yada yada yada. And anyone who's gone through the adventures of figuring out who they are based on gender because they don't feel like what's in here or in here reflects what they were born with down there. So the reason why I work with the binary is because this sorting system of the binary is still actually in place at a certain level. So let's take relatively easy to understand experience, because it's unfortunately very common, which is, let's say you've got a female-bodied person and they're walking down the street, and part of the back dialogue that's not necessarily they're consciously thinking of. They're not walking down the street going oh, I wonder if someone's going to show up on the street and if I should run. They don't usually consciously think of that, though depending on the neighborhood, depending on the time of night, depending on what they're wearing, all of those things we victim blame about. Depending on how prominent they are in the moment, they can be very conscious at the time. But many times they're not conscious at the time. So they're just walking down the street doing their thing. And someone else starts walking on the sidewalk. Then they could have the response of changing what side of the sidewalk they're on, or changing to the other side of the road, or maybe changing their posture, all of a sudden walking faster. And it's like kind of these knee-jerk responses just start happening, but the dialogue in the brain that maybe isn't as aware anymore is that, oh, someone else is there, I might need to protect myself because I'm in this kind of body, and generally other beings are stronger than this kind of body, or other beings take advantage of this kind of body, or yada yada yada. You see where I'm going. So those associations are all still there, whether the mind is kind of processing them actively. And sometimes a situation can arise where, yes, it does bring it all into the forefront all over again, and it does reprocess. So those associations will still be there. Another really common one is like the your gender determines how good you are at math. Those kinds of stupid things. And they're not, let me clarify my use of that word. It's not stupid in the fact of that to have those beliefs means that you're of less intelligence. That's entirely not the case. It's frustrating that we're in a culture that believes because of the genitalia that are attached to you, that determines your mental capabilities. Because that's what we're saying. When we say that the female-bodied aren't as good as at math, we're saying that for some reason that organ controls your ability to actually have the ability to do math. Not true. Because think about it the other way around. If you take a being and you raise this being with the idea that they're going to be bad at math because of the way that their sex organs manifested, they're going to believe it. If you raise something from 0 to 100, believing it's going to be bad at math, it's probably going to be bad at math because you've told it a million times. The other hand, if you raise something believing it can't be emotional, one way or another, it's not going to be able to process emotions very well. It's pretty simple if you think about it. It's the same as like, I could raise a being saying that this color right here is purple, and I could say it from the day they're born, that this is the color purple. That's what purple looks like. It's going to be the color purple. They're going to take that in, and until they hit like school and talking to a lot of people who disagree with that statement, then they'll start shifting that statement. But if you wake up in the world and that world is telling you a certain thing and everything else is reinforcing that same belief, the media, movies, whatever, it's gonna get hammered in pretty damn good. And then it takes everything in that being to actually resist that. So in my process with hypnotherapy, I use gender because we still have those associations whether we mean to or not. Whether the person is non-binary or not, they still have some residual effect of those associations. And because I'm working in the realm of therapy, which means I'm working to help people grow past the issues that they're having, it means that there's something about the way that those messages went in that's not working out for them. You know, so for the people that they have no associations to gender and they're totally fine and they're going through the world just having a great old time, great, that's awesome. That means you don't need to look at the world like that, and I don't need to work with you like that, and I probably don't need to work with you. Cool, that's awesome. But for many of the other people that I encounter in my practice, that's not the circumstance. The circumstance, more often than not, is that they've picked up a message somewhere along the way that says you can't do the thing for such and such a reason, and we have to work out why, where the heck it came from, and shift it. And do the work of figuring out, does that serve you? Does that not serve you? Do you still want it? Do you not want it? What the heck do you want in its place? And that gets a lot easier when you can put it into those categories, because it simplifies it. If I was to take someone's associations, all the different things you could pick up from being in a female body. So you have to look attractive, you're not allowed to age. Certain scholastic skills are going to be better than other scholastic skills. Walking in particular ways is better than walking in other ways. Don't show strength, da-da-da. Like, if I was to list all the things we learn about what it means to be in a certain type of body, that list is huge. And if I was to try to go into a practice and go through every single one of those things individually, it would take a really long time. Like, a really, really long time. Think about all the things we have that are gender associated. In other languages, they will put pronouns of gender onto the object. Like, it's everywhere. It's so saturated in our culture, which is just our culture right now as it is. Yeah. So it becomes simpler to shift the association of whether being in one type of body or another type of body is okay or not okay, or what it's capable of. It's easier to do that with the gender piece than to try to go through every single thing that we pick up about that gender. Because that just, it's not a waste of time. It just takes a hell of a lot longer to do it that way, rather than just take, okay, so this is what your definition of what the female bodies and those who inhabit them are able to do. Let's make it so that they're able to do anything that either body could do. That's a lot easier than going like, okay, so you think you're unable to write things in a logical format. Okay, let's shift that thing. Okay, that one's done. Cross it off. Okay, math. Cross that off. Okay, walking down the street safely. Cross that off. It's going to take a hell of a lot longer. So it simplifies things because the brain's already working in that way. So using the system that it's already sorting and categorizing and creating these associations from, and making it work with itself instead of against itself. Yeah, so that's why I use the gender binary in my practice, even though I'm not someone who considers myself really a part of that binary, because I'm aware that within my own mind, I will still think of things like that. And it won't be like a, oh God, I'm thinking things that are female, I should stop. I'm thinking of things that are male, I should stop. No, it's not in any way like that. It's like, oh, hey, I still think that being, like, active is a masculine thing. That's interesting. And then I'll just log that away somewhere. Maybe it'll be useful in my practice. Maybe it'll be useful with a client. And that's all it really comes down to. It doesn't come down to that system now navigating what I choose to do or to not do. It just means that I'm aware of it and I utilize that information. So I can utilize that with clients. Hey, okay, I've got this association with being active as being masculine. I wonder if my client has that same association. Well, I can ask and check in, and then that can help us refine how we approach dealing with masculine energies. So it doesn't need to be something that's, oh God, get rid of it as quickly as possible. It depends on how it impacts our actions and where we're motivated from that space. It's different to have something affect us and control us versus having something affect us and then we decide what we're going to do with it afterwards, which is my goal when I'm working with clients. Whether they still have the associations or not, they have the ability to do something different with them. So you may still have a client who comes in and they perceive themselves as female and they're totally okay with that, but what they'd really like to do is have some more courage. Okay, then we'll work with that so that you can be comfortable having courage and whatever that entails for you, and still have that association with being female. Because if you're comfortable with that, okay, cool, that's awesome. Yeah. So there you go. Just a little tidbit as to how I work with clients in my practice and why I continue to use the gender binary. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for watching. And if you're interested in hearing more, I plan on adding in more videos to this YouTube channel. I also have a website that has a blog on it. It's lucidliberations.com. If you're interested in seeing any of my dance performances, that's actually Faery Essences on YouTube. And I have a Faery Essences Facebook page that has information about these guys as well. So, yeah, thank you. This is Faery, and have yourself a good day. Bye!